Hi there, I'm Brian Kelly. I'm a rapper sword dancer. I've been a Betty with the Newcastle Kingsmen for many a year, then joined Sallyports and then joined other teams and learned not only rapper and longsword, but also Cotswold. And I've had an interest in the history of my social activities. This really started during the lockdown when I met up again on Zoom with old school friends. And we had chats, we still have fortnightly chats about school memories, the pubs we went to in our teens and early 20s, and the things that we've been doing since then. And also during lockdown, I've had regular fortnightly Zoom meetings with Haymarket Rapper. Again, we've been looking at our history, often through sharing photos with the Kingsman and also with Haymarket itself. And so I'd like to share some of the approaches to finding out, rediscovering rapper team histories. So I have a set of slides available, a recording of this talk and the slides itself with notes will be made available shortly. So this is a digital methodology, a methodology for digital architecture, which can be used by anyone. So feel free to leave comments in the field below or send an email to briankellyrapper@gmail.com. So this is a brief summary of my dancing history. I joined the Kingsmen in October 78, enjoyed that. Then I enjoyed it so much, I joined Sallyport Sword probably around 1980. But I realised I'd probably leave Newcastle at some stage and I'd go down south where there was not much rapper dancing. So I decided to join Hexham Morris in order to learn some Cotswold Morris. And yes, I did move south. And in 1981, I moved to Hull, where I joined Green Ginger Morris. I then left Hull and moved to the Midlands, joined Phoenix Sword in Loughborough and Black Cap in Derby, and then eventually moved further south and joined Northgate, and then in recent years the Haymarkets, and where I currently am in Bridport, dancing with Wild Morris. And Wild Morris is 10 years old this year, so I have an interest in finding out about the history of Wild Morris. So here are some photos of some of the main teams I've danced with, other teams I've danced with, and some of the one-off performances, in that case with Gotham Ploughstots. Now, starting off with the Kingsman. So this is about digital memories. So if we go to the Kingsman website, kingsman.co.uk, we find it was probably launched in 1997. Lots of resources, over 2,600 files, 30 megabytes, mainly of photographs and videos. But it appears that there's not much new material there. So I suspect that the Kingsmen are now using Facebook and Twitter for sharing their memories, engaging with their audiences and the like. But in today's talk, I'll be focusing on primarily on websites. So we can go there and find lots of history about the teams. Interesting, there's just the three main dancers mentioned there. And the main tool I'll be using is the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine. So archive.org/web. You go there and you simply type in copy and paste a URL, and you find the snapshots of the websites that have been taken over the period. And here we find lots of snapshots, 143 saves between 2004 and 2020. So we can go back to 2004 for the Kingsman. So what might I learn by looking at those old archives? First archive copy is from 13th of August 2004. Some of the links that are available. But the thing I think I found most interesting was this set of links to other rapper sites on the web. So I looked at this, and this was from 14th of August 2014. There were some sites there whose names I don't recognize. Perhaps they've folded, but we can still go to this page and click on one of these links and see what their website looked around that period in time. I was particularly interested in Northgate Rapper and other of my sites, so I could find their website in 2004, which had their photos of when they appeared at Glastonbury in 1998. So this set of links was a really useful resource for expanding my interests in dance history, digital dance memories, but my focus will be on Kingsman and Sallyport, so I'm not going to follow any more of those links in this talk. But you can do so if you have an interest in those teams. When I looked at that, I thought, hang on a minute, where's Sallyport? So what this is telling me is Sallyport I knew existed then because I was dancing with them at that time, but they didn't have a website, which is a pity. So let's see if we can find something about Sallyport Swords history. So this is their current website, sallyportsword.co.uk, and up at the top we have the links to the tradition, what's on, and contact us. But what about the history of that website? How has it developed over time? What about the history of the team? When was Sallyport formed? Which festivals have they been to? Which dancers do they perform? Which dancers were introduced sometimes during their history? Those are all things I have an interest in. So let's just go to the Internet Archive, Wayback Machine again. I type in sallyportsword.co.uk, and here there have only been 4 captures between 2020 and 2021. So just very recent times. And then I find the websites in the archive looks pretty much as it does today. No new information there. So I'm not finding an answer to my questions on the Internet Archive because the website is new. What can I do? Well, I need to find out the previous website address. So this is where my email archives was useful. So I went back, and on the 14th of March 2013, there was a message sent to team members to say the website address had changed to sallyport.heroqapp.com. So I can use that URL. So I type that into the Wayback Machine, and here I get 12 captures between 2013 and 2018. And here was one 1533, so you can see there was 2 in that year, one on 14th of May, one on 22nd of December 2018. What do I find here? Well, similar set of links, dancers, contact us, some further links and help information. And this page. Oh, and by the way, I smiled when I saw this photo. And if you know about rapper dance history and famous iconic scenes, you will recognize this. So thank you, Sallyport, for creating that. And a list of dancers. And here we find, oh, there's a new dance. They're now doing the Poppleton longsword dance. So previously it was just mentioning the rapper dancers, but here we've got 5 dancers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 rapper dancers, 1 longsword dance. And if we go back to the first page, where are we? 2014. The presentation is slightly different, but we can see it's the same set of dancers. But no further information here. So that's the earliest of this website. But what of the digital history before 2014? So how do we find out more? Well, maybe use some advanced searching techniques. What would be nice would be have a chat about website domain names in the pubs with people, or alternatively, I could look at the minutes of previous AGMs. Unfortunately, I do have some of the minutes, and from the minutes from the AGM in 2010, there was some discussion about the sallyport.org domain. So let's put in sallyport.org into the Wayback Machine. And what do I find? I find information going back to April 2006 up to August 2018. So here is the oldest side, 24th of April 2016. Let me just check this. Yes, and there are links to our dancers, history, some other links, some news information, and 5 dancers listed. Let's see what else I find. 2017, similar information. We can see the 5 rapper dancers listed there, and there's a news section. And in that news section, I find out that Sallyport in that year won the traditional prize for their rendition of Swalwell, and Stewart walked off with the prize for best character after a superb Tommy off with Chris Pitt from the Kingsmen. I remember that. I'd forgotten about it, but being able to find these archives brought back those memories. So thank you for recording that news snippet. So what happened next? What happened after 2007? Because I want to find out between 2007 and the next 10 years or so. But I can't find any, because what I find in the Wayback Machine is this. So this was in 2012. Between 2008 and 2012, there was really nothing there. Blank pages and the like. It seems the domain was no longer owned by Sallyport, it was for sale, and various owners had it. He was one. I wondered what that says. There we find a site that performs permanent hair removal. Okay, I don't think that's Sallyport. Maybe not. And then in 2018, it's owned by Cedo, Cedo Domain Parking Company. So it's for sale, that domain name. And somebody bought it. But this is what I find about the various domains that Sallyport had at the years. So sallyport.org today is owned by not very competent internet pirates, as you can read if you read that founded in, enter a year by enter a name. Sallyport has come a long way from its beginning in wherever, when, whoever first started out with their passion for whatever your passion is. Okay, maybe we could apply that for a sword team, but not very sensible thing to do, I would suggest. So that's looking at the Internet Archive, the Wayback Machine. But there are other tools available, and in particular the UK Web Archive, which was provided by the British Library and aims to collect all UK websites at least once a year. But if you type in the domain names for Kingsman and Sallyport, no information available. So my recommendation would be to submit your website. Let me show you how to do this. So, because its focus is on specially selected websites that represent different aspects of UK heritage on the web. And I would argue that rapper sword dancing is an important aspect of UK heritage. So all rapper teams, all sword teams, all traditional teams, all Morris teams should try to ensure that their website is archived in the UK Web Archive. You just click on the Save a UK website, fill in the form, including an email address. And I submitted one for my Team Wild Morris. It's our 10th anniversary this year. I want there to be an archive of our website, so in 10 years' time, we'll be able to look back and smile at what we were doing during COVID times. But anyway, that's a specific bit of advice I would give to try and save your website domain. So there was 2 main services, the Internet Archive, UK Web Archive, but what other tools might be of use? Brief technical diversion you'll be familiar with URLs, uniform resource locators, a website address. And you might say, well, if you get rid of your website or you forget to pay the domain name, well, that's history, it doesn't matter. Somebody else may have claimed it, but we don't care. You don't need to know anymore. But you can also regard the URL as an identifier, and this name is the name URI, Uniform Resource Identifier, is also used in geeky circles. It can be regarded as the same as a URL, but it can be used to identify a website location, website page, and find out who was talking about that resource, or who was referencing the resource. So those historical domain names can be important. We've already seen that because we've seen how we can see what the website looked like in the past. But we can also say who was linking to our previous website address, as I'll show. And this can be important because if you look, the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine has over 550 billion web pages. So in order to find those pages, you'll need a key, and your URL can be that key into those pages. So let's look at a tool. I'll be using an SEO, search engine optimization, backlink tool to find links to an old website, in this case, a previous Sallyport website. So I go to ahrefs.com backlink checker, type in the domain name, and I find there were 16 links to that now no longer existing domain, but this information is available, 16 links from 8 domains. A couple of them are directory services, quite a number of them. And so if these directory services are still alive and being maintained, Sallyport should really make sure that they link to the current address. Check that that's the case. But here was one I thought was interesting. Croatian National Tourist Board said 2017 Sallyport dance there. So I clicked on this link, and what did I find? I find a picture of Sallyport in a nice festival website. And there we have it. I recognise 1, 2, 3, 4. I recognise those 4 dancers, and there is one for the team. Guess whose feet these belong to? So they were at a festival. There's a programme for the festival. But Sallyport had an even older website domain name, sallyport.org, from 2006 till about 2008 or maybe 2009. So I put this in and find there were 22 backlinks from 7 domains. Again, some directory services, some dodgy spam sites. But this, it looks fascinating. Biker Ted Diaries, The Bells, It Must Be the Gate to Southall. So I wanted to see, is this website still around? Can I find out what it was saying about Sallyport in November 2009? Let's see. Ah, yes, here it is, Biker Ted had a Blogspot blog accounts. After the formalities are over, the dance are given free beer vouchers to be redeemed in the Bramley Apple Public House. In this film, we see the Sallyport sword dancers, and at the end, Mike from Dolphin Morris with his pick up sticks routine. So there's a blog post. Got the URL for the blog post, it's still there, and that blog post links to a YouTube video. And guess what? Okay, so we've discovered an old video of Sallyport dancing a longsword dance in at the Gate to Southall in 2009. So it was really thanks to knowing about that old domain I was able to find this. So let's move on. Kingsman site, well, it's very large and there's lots of pages there. So it's likely to be lots of links to those various pages around. And yes, using the same tool, I can find there are over 1,000 links to the website from over 100 different domains. And I should say that I'm using the free version of this tool. If I want to see all the backlink links, I can pay $7 for a 7-day trial, or I could pay $99 to $999 per month to access the full range of SEO services. No thanks. I will just look at this because on the list of links that are provided, I have this one, Teams Committed, but the pick of the bunch were the Newcastle Kingsmen and the Sallyport. And from what I can tell, the Sallyport, oh, there's a teaser. What does the rest of that sentence say about the Sallyport? And from what I can tell, the Sallyport dancers all originated in the Kingsmen. Well, not quite true, but there is some truth in that statement. And so this was at a dirt event. And if we look, we dance in tiny places in Soho, and then a couple of YouTube videos. And which brings me on to Susan the Corby. Rapper Dancers includes 2 characters, Tommy and Betty, and Andy was the Betty. And Andy's twin brother used to dance with the Kingsmen, and they were invited to provide the comedy elements. And as it was Jubilee in that year, 2012, Andy decided to give Betty a topical theme. So he dressed as the Queen and made Susan the papier-mâché corgi. Fascinating. I'm now starting to remember that. And yes, there are 2 YouTube videos. One was in a pub. Yes, well, we've all heard Chris Pitt, Tommy, so we'll just leave that for now. And there was the showcase in the evening. Oh, and this is amazing. We have 2 teams dancing simultaneously with the Betty and 2 Bettys, and oh, lots of double somersaults or several double somersaults or whatever, who knows. But I'll provide links to these videos in the comments for this video later on. But for now, let me just move on. For my conclusions. So if you care about your team's history, you can't ignore your digital history these days. Your current URL is really important, so please look after it and remember to renew it. But in addition, and people tend to not appreciate this, your previous domain names are also important. And if you forgot them to renew them, you may be able to find out your old information on the Internet Archives, Wayback Machine, and the British Library's UK Web Archive. So if you're not in the UK Web Archive, you should register your domain name. And don't forget that those AGM minutes and also chats down the pub with team members might be useful in finding not just about the stories, but also the links, which can mean that other stories which might be forgotten will be rediscovered. So they're my conclusions here. And if you don't care about your team's history, well, to be honest, others may. And the others might include potential new members, people who might be interested in joining, but when they're fascinating to see some of the highlights of what your team's been doing, that might motivate them to join. So I hope you've found that of interest. This has been my first talk about digital archaeology or digital forensics, perhaps, and I will have another look perhaps at some of these, finding some of the history for some of my other teams, maybe including teams which no longer exist or may have folded before the web existed. So Thank you.